Welcome to Python Pro, a 30-day workshop by CTC. And today on day 4, we'll be looking on the escape sequence and conditional statements. So moving on to what are escape sequence. Escape sequence are a set of special characters that help you add, say if you want to add a double quotes within a string, it may it is going to return an error stating that uh, you have given an invalid syntax. So in that case, what if I want to include it inside the string? So these special characters called the escape sequence will help you to give the instructions to the computer saying that, hey, I want to do, say, I want to have a new line here. I want to have 4 space here. So I want to add another word here with the quotes, say like that. So these escape characters can be used. So here are a few escape sequence characters. Say if you want to add a backslash, escape sequence are always followed starting with the backslash and the characters will be followed behind. So if I want to add a backslash, so I'll be using 2 backslash. Say a single quote character, same. First a backslash, then a single quote. And if I want to add a double quote character, so I'll be using the same backslash and a double quotes. So if I want to add a word with double quotes, I'll be using 2 of these since I'll be requiring to close, a word between two, say, double quotes. So moving on to the conditional statements. What are conditional statements? Conditional statements are used to make decisions in programming. Similar to the conditional operator, conditional statements help you to execute a block of code. Say, if the statement is true, I want to move on to another set of code that does some other job. And if the condition fails, I want to do it something else. So, in those cases, we'll be using conditional statements. So, in Python, we have if, else, and elif. Let us now look at how to declare the if statements. To declare an if statement, we'll be using the if keyword followed by its condition. And then the next line will be having the code segment which you want to execute if the condition is true. Let us have an example and understand even more better. So we are trying to check the eligibility for driving license. Age is a variable that stores the input that we get from the user, and we are going to check if age is greater than or equal to 18. So as you can see, if keyword is followed by the condition, then colon, and you'll be having a tab over here for the indentation, and then you have to print your output or result that you want to display. So if this statement is true, it will print. If this statement is false, it won't print anything. So the output we have here is we are eligible. Say if the user gives the input less than 18, so nothing will be printed. And moving on to the else statements, else comes along with if. Like if can be used even without else. Say like the previous example, there is no else part, but over here else statement cannot exist without an if. So similar to the if, we'll be having the else keyword, but just with the colon. So if you want to add any more condition to the else part, we'll be looking at it in the elif. Moving on to the example, the same example, but I've had added the else part. Say the else is where I print you're not eligible for the license. So the next input where it is less than 18, we'll be getting the output as not eligible for driving license. Before moving on to the coding part, let us understand how the if else block is going to be executed. So consider this flowchart and say we have The starting and ending represented by the ovals. The decisions are represented by rhombus, and the statement or what you want to do after these decisions are represented by the rectangles. Say the action you want to perform is represented by the rectangles. So when when I want to take a decision, there comes only two answers: the same yes or no, 0 or 1, or true or false. So here, when I make a decision, it goes to either block 1 or the block 2. Say this is block 2 and this is block 1. And if the true part is executed, it would not go into the false part. It directly goes to the end. And similarly, when the condition fails, this also encounters the end part. Say take an example of comparing two numbers, say A and B. I want to check if which number is greater. So I'm going to give A greater than B. If the condition is true, I'm going to print A is greater. Or if the condition fails, we'll be printing B is greater. And similarly, all of the if else statements are going to work. So as we did earlier, let us draft on how we are going to code. So to check if a number is odd or even, uh, the if condition is going to take if the number is, we are going to check if the number is actually divisible by 2. So as for the operators, modulo operator returns the remainder. So we are going to check if the remainder is equal to 0, and the if segment is going to print if the condition is true, it will print as even. And if this condition fails, we are going to have an else part where the else is going to print odd. And moving on to the largest of two numbers, as we saw in the flowchart, our if statement is going to take a greater than or b, and if this condition is going to be satisfied, we are going to print is large, say. And if the condition fails, in the else part, we'll have the same print statement but with b. To check if a triangle is valid, we'll be using uh, statement that if side 1 plus side 2 is greater than side 3, and if side 2 plus side 3 is greater than side 1, and if side 1 plus side 3 is greater than side 2. So if these conditions are satisfied, we will say that the triangle is valid, or else we are going to print that the triangle is invalid. So the if statement is going to contain all of this, and here we will be using our AND operators to join all these conditions. And the else part is going to print not a valid triangle. And to check if a student has passed his exam or failed, we are going to follow the similar method where we get the input from user. Say I get the input marks from the user, and I'm going to check if the marks is greater than 40. And if this condition is satisfied, we are going to print that the student passed. Else, we are going to print that he failed. So, and the last one we have over here is that to check if a number is positive or negative. So the logic here would be to check, say, positive numbers are always greater than 0 and negative numbers are always less than 0. So we are going to write that if num is greater than 0, we are going to print it as positive. Else we will be printing it as negative. Now we have drafted our code and we also have seen the syntax. So let us move on to the coding part. To find if a number is odd or even, I'll use this as a comment. To check if a number is odd or even, we are going to take the input from the user, say nums equal to int of input of, and I'm going to use escape sequence character /n for a new line. Enter the number. And I'm going to give the number, say, and to check if this number is divisible by 2, I'm going to use the if else block. Say if nums mod 2 equal to 0. And else I'm going to print odd. So here our if block is executed and we have got the output as even. And notice that there is a line that we have that has been left here. That is because of the new line escape sequence that we have used. Moving on to the next sum where we check if a number, if given two numbers, which one is the greatest? Say the largest of two numbers. So I'm going to declare say num1. I'm also going to get the input from the user. Say this time I say enter number 1. And now I'm going to enter some number. And then num2. And my if statement is going to go like a, then num1 greater than num2. And the else part I'm going to say so our num2 is greater than num1. This is because our condition is failed here. Because number 1 is smaller and the else part got executed here. Moving on to the say pass or fail question, that is very similar to the same. Say we check if the person has crossed a certain a certain say 40%. So I'm going to get marks from user. My condition goes here is if marks greater than 40, I'm going to declare him as passed, and then if not, the person is considered as fail. So 65 is greater than 40. So if block is executed here and we've got the result as pass. Moving on to the triangle, valid triangle question. See, to check if a triangle is valid, I'm going to get the sides from the user. So side 1, I'm getting float of input of say 2.43 or 43. Side 2, say another float or input or side 3 is going to be float of input or yeah. So I missed a T here and we got an error. So side 3, let's make it lesser than the both sides. So to check if a triangle is valid, I'm going to see that if side 1 plus side 2 greater than side 3 and side 2 plus side 3 greater than side 1 and side 1 plus side 3 is greater than side 2. If all these conditions are satisfied, I'm going to print valid triangle. Else it is an invalid triangle. So here are some is not returning uh, the condition. It is not satisfying the condition. Since it is an AND statement, all of these conditions are supposed to return true, and only then we'll be having the if block executed. Even if one of these statement fails, it is going to move on to the else block. Let us look at some more examples. In question 6, we have you want to grant or deny access to edit a file based on the user's role. Say the user role can be admin or user, and their permissions can be read, write, and delete. So the constraint here is only the admin can edit the file. Keeping all this in mind, let us start writing our code. So we have to get the user's role as to check if he's a admin or user, and we have to be mindful of our permissions too. So I'm going to declare a variable user role and get input from the user. Enter your role, saying is it an admin or user. I'm going to give it as admin. And moving on, I'm going to declare the permissions as a list. So user permission will be having a list containing read, write, and delete. So if to check if the user has access, we are going to write our conditional statement if or. Moving on to the seventh question, you want to recommend a movie to a user based on their preferences and age group. So I'm declaring user as dictionary where I get their age, where I have stored their age, the genre that they want to watch, and what if they prefer the recent movies, and I've given true. And similarly, I've created a variable for movies as a dictionary, and I've entered the data as the title key will be storing the movie A, and the genre will be action, and the release year is going to be 2022. To check if the user's preference is matching with the movie, we are going to compare the genre the user wants to watch as well as the genre of the movie. So if this part is true, or if the user wants to watch the recent movies, so if this block returns true, and if this block is going to return true, only then we'll be able to print the output as recommended. Else, there won't be any output. This is a simple if statement example. So let us decode this part. So the user genre and the movie genre is going to be same, since we have given action for the user's genre and action for the movie genre. So this part is going to be true. Or if the user prefers recent movies and the prefer recent key is holding the value true, so it is true or true. So the output for the first statement is going to be true, and we have to check if this part is returning true. Only then the output will be printed. So if the release year is greater than 2022, we will be checking with the value here. So 2022 greater than 2020. So this part is true. And you're going to check if the user's age is greater than or equal to 18. So this will be directing to the age of the user, which is 25. So 25 is also greater than 18, and this block is also returning true. So we have an overall true here and a true here. So this if statement is going to print the output.